Tengen, the son Hashira, was the first to react with disbelief. His usual flamboyant demeanor momentarily forgotten. Rengoku's alive, he whispered to himself. How can this be? He wondered. Kojiro had been killed by Akaza, the Upper Moon 3. It was a loss that had shooken the entire chorus to its core. It's a grief that still felt as raw as it had the day they received the news. And now, this impossible realization was that he'd been revived. Tengen's mind instantly went to Yin. The girl had been so devastated upon hearing the news of her lover's death, and had become hysteria, refusing to believe Kojiro was truly gone. The Sound Pillar could only imagine what bizarre events had taken place at the wreckage. Regardless of his internal shock, it didn't stop the delighted grin that spread across his face. Mitsuri, the love Hashira, was amid everyone, some freshly made sakura mochi, when the crow had stopped by. What? Her green eyes widened in size as of dinner plates when she heard the crow's message, and she clutched her heart, feeling a surge of joy and disbelief. Kojiro-senpai, he's alive? She whispered to herself, her eyes gradually brimming with tears of happiness. Rengoku was like a brother to her, always there with a comforting smile, and his death had left a gaping hole in her heart. Now, with the news of his arrival, Mitsuri felt her heart swell with hope. The taste of sakura mochi had never been sweeter. Shinobu, the insect Hashira, was in the middle of a quiet evening when the news reached her. Her gradient dark purple eyes widened in astonishment when she heard the crow. The corners of her mouth quirked up in a rare grin, one that was genuine, and she might have giggled a bit. Giyu Tokida, the water Hashira, was on the training grounds, his stoic expression not revealing his inner turmoil. Upon hearing the crow's message, he paused in his training, his head resting on the hilt of his sword. What a strange turn of events. Kojiro was a great man, and had been only one among the Hashira to give Giyu the time of day. The latter rarely spoke to the others, and meetings were always awkward, since it's a war they're fighting. Giyu often assumed there was never a good time for pleasantries. However, Kojiro somehow made it work, which is why the water Hashira respected him oh so much. The news was unexpected, but Giyu felt a relief wash over him. Sanemi, the wind Hashira, was in his usual immense rage as he beat and slashed the training dummy made out of rolled tatami mats. His anger dispirited when the crow perked on his shoulder and delivered the news. To hear Kojiro was alive? Sanemi laughed first, a deep gruff sound that echoed through the training ground. It had to be a joke, a sick one at that. But once the Kasakai crow restated the phrase again, reality settled in, and Sanemi stopped his laughter. His eyes widened in shock, and he turned to the crow. What the hell? First you're saying he's dead, now he's alive. Though in disbelief, he slammed his fist into the wooden dummy with renewed vigor. A fierce grin spread across his face. Well, I'll be damned. Mitra, the mist Hashira, had just finished his afternoon stroll when the crow squawked to pierce the silence of the evening. He paused, his breathing misting in the area, and listened intently. The words of the bird seemed to have resonated in his soul. Kojiro's alive. He couldn't believe it. Though Michio had to admit the flame pillar was one he liked the most out of all the others, at first the young slayer found him loud, if not scary. There was a day Kojiro didn't smile, and his fiery spirit was infectious. But over time, Michio appreciated his straightforward and kind heart. He briefly remembers the time he and Kojiro were assigned a mission together. Though Michio can't recall all the details, he believed he'd hurt his arm, or was it his leg? Either way, he couldn't walk. What Michio did remember, however, was Kojiro carrying him via piggyback ride, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and Michio remembered feeling warm. Kojiro was always warm. The thought of him being alive brought a warmth in Michio's chest as he looked up at the blue sky, seeing the same cloud that he'd seen over their shared mission, and smiled. Gome, the stone Hashira, was deep in prayer when the crow interrupted his meditation. His stoic demeanor cracked as he rose to his feet, the gravity of the message echoing through the serenity room. Rengoku-san is alive? He muttered, his expression in disbelief. It shouldn't have been possible. Yet here it was, the whispers of a miracle. Gome respected Kojiro. The man was kind to all and had a heart as fiery as his breath. It was a heart that matched his fiery abilities, burning away despair and bringing warmth to those who needed it. His loss had been a blow to Gome, who had lost those he cared about in the past. The news of this shock was the very foundation in his beliefs. Kojiro had been revived, and the gods had allowed it to happen, though the hands of the wise old priestess. Soon, thick tears rolled down Gome's cheeks, and his hands clutched the rosary beads as he felt the sudden of loss filled slightly. He murmured prayers of thanks, his deep voice retorting the walls of the room. Thank you. At the Rengoku household, however, the atmosphere was, sober. Shinjiro Rengoku sat silently in the living room, his thoughts a tremendous storm, and his mind raced with words of the stupid crow, and he couldn't help but feel anger toward it. Kojiro, his son, had been killed in battle. The news had stuck to him like a lightning bolt, leaving the taste of bile in his mouth. And now, they're saying he's alive. What a cruel joke. Shinjiro was in his room, his eyes red and puffy from all the crying this morning. He hadn't left his room since the news of Kojiro's death. Kojiro's death had arrived. He couldn't believe his brother was gone. Kojiro, the strong one, the one who could always make him smile, and the one he always looked up to. However, once the mini Rengoku heard the distant caw of the crow followed by a harsh sound of glass shattering, he couldn't help but perk up, curious to know what all the commotion was about. Shinjiro wiped his tears and went to investigate. Upon entering the living room, he was shocked to see his father angrily cursing at a Katsukai crow. Oto-san, what's going on? As if to answer the youngling's question, the Katsukai crow, unfazed by the elder Rengoku's anger, cocked its head and squawked the same message once more. Ka! Flame Hashira Rengoku Kojiro lives! Ka! Kojiro Rengoku is alive! He has been revived! Shinjiro blinked. Wait, Kojiro was alive? Bullshit! Shinjiro roared, unable to contain his rage. First you tell me and us he's dead, and now you're spouting nonsense that he's alive. His fist clenched to his side, his eyes burning with fiery anger that mirrored the intents of fire. It's true! Kojiro lives. He was revived by the retired soul Hashira Otsu Furuwa. Ka! She sacrificed her life for his. The crow exclaimed, its dark eyes unblinking. Long live I'm sorry. Long live the flame pillar! Rejoice! Squawk! Rejoice! A ceremonial vase was suddenly thrown at the crow, and the bird quickly dodged the falling object as it splattered against the nearest wall. Curse you! Sinjo yelled. Having said all what it needed to say, the Katakai crow flapped its wings and took flight, leaving the stunned father and son to process the momentary revolution. Sinjiro stared at the shattered bottle, his breath coming in harsh puffs and his mind racing. Kojo is alive. Just what nonsensical bullshit was this? Just what in the hell happened at the train wreck? The anger within Sinjiro grew like a bonfire with every beat of his heart. Yet deep down, a flicker of hope danced amidst the flames. Sinjiro's eyes grew wide with astonishment. Otada? As in Oni-chan's foster mother? The boy pondered, the gears in his head working hard to piece together the puzzle of the situation. Then Sinjiro recalled the conversation between the adults on, I'm going to butcher this name, but the Ishinagawa Bridge on Kojo and Yin's wedding day. Lady Otsu used to be a Hashira, and she somehow used her breathing style to revive Kojo. Senjiro stared mindlessly at the floor for a moment, his red and golden eyes unblinking. It didn't sound real. It couldn't be real. But if what the Kasakai crow said is true, then Senjiro's eyes... Sorry, my cat is deciding to be... Okay. Senjiro's eyes shimmered with hope. What had been heartache, depression, and sorrow gradually turned into hope, relief, and joy as the mini Rengoku suddenly glanced up, still fuming father. Soon, tears formed in the corner of Senjiro's eyes, and his lips slowly stretched open wide. The joy of his brother being alive again had his heart beating like a taiko drum during a festival. Honey-chan is alive, the boy muttered softly. Kojo, he's alive! Louder until Senjiro was practically beaming with glee. Big brother's alive! Senjiro snarled, hearing the younger shout for joy as he bounced around the room, flailing his arms around. He felt the urge to chastise the boy for being too loud and eruptive, but the Rengoku blinks. His shoulders slump as he stares at the igwa where the Katsukai crow had been standing, and then in the garden. It was a bright sunny day outside. Light streaming through the soji screens painted the room in a soft, warm glow. He clenched his fist tightly, his fingernails leaving tiny crescent marks that bled a bit. Senjiro didn't know why he felt angry. Honestly, he should feel happy. Happy that his son is alive, even though it should have not been possible. But then again, the world of demon slayers was not governed by logic and reason. It was placed where demons exist, a place where anything can happen. It's then Senjiro's mind thought of Yen, Kojiro's wife, and his daughter-in-law. She was called the Yuki-onna because she was cursed with ice powers. He wouldn't be lying when he said most certainly he had changed ever since Kojiro brought her home. It was like something in the atmosphere had shifted ever since Kojiro had brought Yin into their lives. Internally, Senjiro had been happy when Kojiro told him about her, thinking if he married and settled down, the boy would give up being a demon slayer. But much to Rengoku's partial dismay, it didn't stop Kojiro from pursuing the path of a demon slayer. If anything, it made him more determined, more fiery than ever. Wasteful. The hell? Senjiro muttered, his chest heaving with the weight of his emotion. The room swirled around him, and his mind railed from impossible news. My son is alive. He sighs deeply, feeling his throat tighten before taking a swig from his, I'm going to butcher this name, tokakuri, meanwhile the tears pouring down his cheeks as he drank.